Protocol, Case File 10, Omni, Part Sin. Subject, the Forge of Creation / extra-dimensional judicial proceeding. Involved parties, the Celestial Sapien High Court versus Benjamin Kirby Tennyson. The cafeteria at Site 19 was serving tacos. For Benjamin Tennyson, this was the most critical event of the day. He had just saved the world from a deer god and wiped out an alien armada with a blink. But his metabolism was purely human and currently screaming for carbohydrates. "So," Dr. Clef said, poking at his own food with a plastic fork, "you blinked, and the bad guys turned into nothing?" "It's complicated," Ben said, adding hot sauce. "Alien X is a lot. I try not to use him. The guys inside, Bellicus and Serena, they argue forever. It's like being stuck in a car with two people fighting over the radio station for a billion years." "And the hybrid?" Clef asked, his eyes sharp. "The fleet, the thousands of soldiers, where did they go?" Ben paused. He hadn't thought about that. He had just wanted them gone. I think I sent them home, or maybe I just undid them." The human mind protects itself from the implications of omnipotence. Benjamin Tennyson viewed the event as cleaning up. He did not fully process that he had exerted a will superior to entropy. However, the universe has an immune system. When a single biological entity exerts that much pressure on the fabric of reality, the antibodies arrive. The air in the cafeteria didn't change temperature. The light didn't flicker. Instead, the concept of location simply ceased to apply to Ben Tennyson. He wasn't pulled through a portal. One moment, he was sitting on a plastic chair in Site 19. The next moment, the chair, the table, and the tacos were gone. Ben fell, but he didn't fall down. He fell out. He tumbled through a kaleidoscopic tunnel of red nebula and black lightning. He recognized this place. He had been here before, when he was 10, and again when he was 16. "Oh no," Ben groaned, stabilizing himself in zero gravity. "Not the forge." He landed softly on a platform made of starlight and obsidian. Above him, the sky was filled not with stars, but with faces. Giant, three-pointed, silhouetted faces. The Forge of Creation, the home of the Celestial Sapiens. And standing in front of him, looking at a pocket watch, was a man in a lab coat and goggles. "Hello, Benjamin," Professor Paradox said, snapping the watch shut. "You really have stepped in it this time. I brought you a gumball. It's mint. Helps with the existential dread." "Paradox," Ben scrambled up. "What are you doing here? Did you cross over too?" "I go where I am needed," the Time Walker smiled. "And currently you are needed in court. You see, wiping out the hybrid fleet? A noble gesture, but doing it with a celestial sapien? That is a violation of the Multiversal Preservation Act, Section 9, Paragraph C." A booming voice shook the platform. It didn't come from a throat. It came from the vibration of the universe itself. "Benjamin Kirby Tennyson." Ben looked up. A massive celestial sapien floated above them. He had a beard made of galaxies. "Starbeard," Ben sighed. "Great. The judge is the guy who hates me." "You stand accused," Starboard intoned, "of unauthorized alteration of a non-native timeline. You use the power of Alien X to interfere with the natural causality of the SCP universe." "They were going to blow up the Earth," Ben shouted back. "And that deer thing was turning people into sponge cake." "Irrelevant," a second celestial sapien voice argued. This one was sharper. "Entropy is natural. Destruction is natural. You imposed order upon chaos without a permit. The celestial sapiens are the writers of reality. To them, the SCP universe is a distinct narrative with its own rules. By introducing Alien X, a Ben 10 logic element, into the SCP world, Ben had committed an act of narrative contamination. He was rewriting a story he didn't belong to. "I object," Ben yelled. "I'm a hero. I save people. That's the job." "You are a variable," Starbeard countered, "and you must be audited." The platform expanded. A witness stand appeared, and in it, teleported from Site 19, was a very confused, very terrified figure. It wasn't Clef. It wasn't Bright. It was a man in a sharp black suit, his face obscured by a digital blur. The administrator of the SCP Foundation. The administrator looked around, his composure breaking for the first time in his life. He saw the giant star gods. He saw the boy in the hoodie. Where? The administrator whispered. Where is this? Court, Ben said. Don't worry, I think you're just a witness. Witness, Starbeard boomed at the administrator. Does this human child possess the authority to rewrite your reality? The administrator looked at Ben. He looked at the Omnitrix. He realized with a sinking feeling that the foundation which controlled the world was nothing more than an ant farm to these beings. The administrator stammered, he saved us, but his power is uncontainable. It violates every law of our reality. See? The second celestial, Sapien, pointed a massive finger. Even the locals reject him. Motion to erase the anomaly known as Ben Tennyson. Seconded! A dozen voices boomed from the sky. Ben clutched the watch. Hey, don't I get a defense? Motion to grant the defendant a trial by combat. Paradox interjected smoothly. Standard procedure, is it not? Tetraman law? Apoplexian decree? Even celestial sapiens enjoy a good show. Starbeard paused. The stars in his body swirled. Very well. A trial by combat, but not of fists, of control. The scenery shifted. The forge of creation vanished. They were standing in a clock tower, but it was infinite. Gears the size of planets turned slowly in the background. Pendulums swung with the weight of solar systems. The SCP universe is fragile, Starbeard announced. It is built on paradoxes and broken logic. If you wish to remain there, you must prove you can navigate its chaos without breaking it further. A massive golden gear appeared in front of Ben. It was spinning erratically, sparking with red energy. This is the timeline of the CP reality, Starbeard said. It is currently destabilized by your presence. Stabilize it, without using Alien X, without using brute force. If you fail, the gear shatters, and that universe is deleted. The administrator gasped. You can't just delete a universe. We can, Starbeard said indifferently. We have deleted 3 before breakfast. Ben looked at the spinning gear. It was vibrating violently. If he touched it, it would shred him. If he hit it, it would break. He needed to synchronize with it. He needed to catch the rhythm of a broken world. 1. Deep search. Access chronosapien, clockwork, abilities regarding time manipulation and multiversal synchronization. 2. Constraint. Do not simply slow time. Describe the mechanical manipulation of causality. Ben dialed the watch. He needed precision. He needed to be a mechanic of time. Clockwork. The transformation was heavy. Ben became a bulky, copper-colored machine entity with a glass chest revealing gears. He moved with a mechanical whir-click sound. Time, Clockwork spoke, his voice thick with a German accent, is just a machine, and machines can be tuned. Ben stepped toward the spinning chaos gear. To a chronosapien, time is not a river, it is a schematic. Ben looked at the SCP timeline. He saw the inconsistencies. He saw the retrocausality of SCP-2000. He saw the time loops of SCP-1730. It was a mess. A beautiful, horrific mess. Asterisk. The gear was spinning too fast because Ben's arrival had added too much heroic mass to the timeline. The story was trying to move too quickly. Clockwork raised the key on his head. Sotobro effect. Invert. He didn't fire a beam. He projected a localized temporal field. Ben reached out with his bulky metal hands. He didn't grab the gear. He placed his hands near it, letting his own internal chronometer resonate with the gear. Tick, tock, tick, tock. He began to wind the key on his head. The spinning gear screamed, a sound like metal tearing. The red energy lashed out, striking Clockwork's armor. Ben, Paradox warned, the feedback. It's millions of years of history pushing back. I have held the Big Bang, Clockwork ground out, his gears spinning furiously. I can hold a few monsters. Ben wasn't just slowing it down. He was editing the tempo. He was weaving his own timeline, Ben 10, into the SCP timeline, creating a bridge rather than a collision. He was syncing the heartbeat of the Omnitrix with the heartbeat of the SCP universe. Click. The gear snapped into a perfect rhythmic rotation. The red sparks turned gold. The timeline stabilized. Ben fell back, transforming into human. He panted, sweat dripping from his forehead. Fixed, he wheezed. No reboot needed. Starbeard floated down. He inspected the gear. Impressive, you did not force the gear. You became part of the mechanism. Does that mean I win? Ben asked. It means you are competent, Starbeard corrected. Motion to dismiss the erasure of Benjamin Tennyson. Motion carried, the voices echoed. Starbeard leaned in close. His face, a void of stars, filled Ben's vision. However, a stipulation. Alien X is too volatile for that reality. If you use the Celestial Sapien again in the SCP universe, we will not hold a trial. We will simply turn off the lights. Understood, Ben said. No Alien X. I'll stick to the other million guys. And, Starbeard turned to the administrator. You, tiny man. The administrator straightened his tie, trying to look dignified in front of a god. Yes? Your universe is flagged for review. Try not to break it again. We hate paperwork. With a flash of light, the court vanished. Ben and the administrator slammed back into reality. Not in the cafeteria, but in the administrator's private office. A room that theoretically didn't exist on any map. The administrator collapsed into his leather chair, trembling. He poured a glass of water, spilled half of it, and drank the rest. You... The administrator looked at Ben. You know them. The ones above. Sort of, Ben said, looking around the office. It was filled with files marked ultra top secret. They're my aliens cousins. Kinda snobby. The administrator laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. We spend trillions of dollars containing statues and lizards. We sacrifice thousands of lives to keep the world normal. And you have the judges of reality on speed dial. I wouldn't say speed dial, Ben muttered. More like on probation. The administrator opened a drawer. He pulled out a black key card. It had no magnetic strip, no chip. Just the plumber's symbol etched into one side and the SCP logo on the other. We cannot contain you, the administrator said. We cannot fight you. And now I know that if we try to remove you, the universe itself might object. He slid the card across the desk. This grants you level 5 clearance. Everywhere. Any site. Any file. You are not just a consultant anymore, Ben. You are the Foundation's Plan A. Ben picked up the card. Plan A? When the box breaks, the administrator said, staring at the empty air where Starbeard had been. You are the one who fixes the gear. Ben left the office. He walked down the corridor of Site-01. He checked the Omnitrix. The Alien X playlist was grayed out, locked by the court. Well, Ben said to himself, back to basics. He rounded a corner and bumped into Professor Paradox. Leaving so soon? Ben asked. I have places to be, Ben. Times to visit. But a word of warning before I go. Paradox leaned on his umbrella. The hybrid are gone. The celestial sapiens are satisfied. But nature abhors a vacuum. What does that mean? It means, Paradox said, fading away, that when you remove the hybrid, you left a hole in the power structure of this universe, and something is coming to fill it. Something that hates technology, something that hates you. Ben frowned. Who? Paradox smiled, his body becoming transparent. Beware the clockwork virus, and I don't mean the alien. Paradox vanished. Ben looked at his watch. Beep! A notification appeared on the Omnitrix faceplate. It wasn't a DNA sample. It was a signal intercept. Source: McCain, Broken God, Network. Target: Omnitrix Biological Interface. Message: the flesh is weak. The metal is pure. We will rebuild the God using your blueprints. Ben sighed. Why can't anyone just send a text? Somewhere in the industrial wasteland of Detroit, SCP Universe version, inside an abandoned automotive factory, cultists in red robes were chanting. But they weren't chanting to a statue. They were chanting to a 3D printer. The machine was massive, built from stolen GOC technology and something else. In the center of the room, a piece of metal floated. It was a shard of the GOC mech Ben had destroyed with NRG, but it was fused with something Ben had left behind during the battle with the hybrid. A drop of upgrades nanites. The nanites were writhing, multiplying, consuming the metal and rewriting it. The high priest of the broken god, a man whose lower jaw was replaced by a speaker grill, stepped forward. The angel of innovation has arrived, the priest intoned. He brought the living metal. With it, we shall not just rebuild God, we shall upgrade him. The nanites surged. They didn't form a blob. They formed a shape that looked suspiciously like a galvanic mechamorph, but twisted. Cogwork, brass, clockwork gears replacing the green circuitry. The entity opened a single glowing red eye. Upgrade complete, the entity spoke. Target, Benjamin Tennyson. Objective, assimilation. Ben 10 had introduced galvanic mechamorph, DNA, to a universe where machines were worshipped as gods. He hadn't just given them a weapon. He had given them a messiah. Protocol, Case File 10-Omni. Part 7, The Climax Ascension. Subject, XK Class, Apotheosis Scenario. Conflict, the Church of the Broken God, Galvanic Augmented, versus the Sarkic Cults, Aditum Resonant. Detroit was gone. In its place stood a cathedral of impossible geometry. It wasn't built, it had grown. The skyscrapers had twisted, their steel beams liquefying and reforming into clockwork spires that scraped the stratosphere. The streets were no longer asphalt, but conveyor belts of black, shifting circuitry. At the center of the city sat the entity, McCain Reborn. It was a colossus, 500 feet tall. It resembled the layout of a human nervous system, but made of brass, gears, and the sleek, black and green fluid of a galvanic mechamorph. The galvanic mechamorph species is unique in the universe. They are not born, they are engineered. They are living technology. When the Church of the Broken God integrated this DNA into their deity, they solved the one problem that had plagued them for millennia: fragmentation. The machine god no longer needed to be built. It could now replicate. Asterisk. The entity raised a hand. A wave of green nanites washed over the Great Lakes. The water boiled, the hydrogen and oxygen atoms being forcibly rearranged into coolant fluid. Inside the command bunker of Site-01, the screens were red. Assimilation rate is 40%, Dr. Clef reported, his voice devoid of its usual sarcasm. It's eating the internet. It's eating the power grid. It's eating toasters. Anything with a circuit is becoming part of him. Ben Tennyson stood by the map. He looked pale. It's my fault. I left the nanites behind. You didn't know, the administrator said, his face illuminated by the hologram of a dying world. But we need a solution. Conventional weapons are useless. The moment we fire a missile, the entity hacks the guidance system and turns it around. So we go analog, Ben said. He looked at his watch. I have to get close. I have to reabsorb the upgrade DNA. If you get close, Clef warned, he won't just absorb the DNA. He'll absorb the Omnitrix. He wants the source code, Ben. He wants the master control. The ground beneath the bunker shook. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a heartbeat. Sir, a technician screamed, seismic anomaly, massive biological mass surfacing in everywhere. On the screens, red dots erupted across the map, encircling Detroit. Action and reaction. The universe seeks balance. The rise of the ultimate machine triggered the immune response of the ultimate flesh. From the cracks in the earth, the Sarkic cults emerged. But they weren't sending soldiers. They were unsealing the ancient prisons of the proto-Sarkic entities. Massive walls of red, cancerous flesh erupted from the ground. They were covered in eyes, teeth, and bone spurs. This was SCP-610, accelerated by ancient blood rituals. A voice echoed psychically across the globe. It was wet, guttural, and sounded like tearing meat. The metal is cold. The flesh is warm. We shall consume the false idol. The war had begun. On one side, a legion of clockwork nanite cyborgs converting matter into machine. On the other, a tsunami of mutant flesh, converting matter into biomass, and caught in the middle, the human race. I need a drop, Ben said, zipping up his jacket. Right in the middle. That's suicide, Clef said. It's a meat grinder out there. Literally. I'm not going alone, Ben said. He tapped the Omnitrix. I'm bringing the heavy hitters. The Foundation teleported him to the outskirts of Detroit. The scene was a nightmare. A skyscraper-sized construct of gears was wrestling with a mountain of muscle and bone. Green lasers sliced through red flesh. Acid blood melted brass gears. Ben landed on a rooftop. The air smelled of ozone and rot. A swarm of nanite drones spotted him. They screeched, a digital modem noise, and dove. You want tech? Ben yelled. Try physics. He slammed the dial. Gravitac. The Galilean floated up. He was a living planetoid with a molten core. Gravitac controls gravity. Gravity is not technology. It is a fundamental law. The nanites could not hack it. Orbit established, Gravitac roared. He increased the gravity around the drone swarm by 500%. The drones crumpled, falling out of the sky like crushed soda cans. But then, the roof beneath him exploded. Tentacles of bone and sinew shot up, wrapping around Gravitac's rocky hide. The sarkic flesh was trying to infect him. Get off! Gravitac reversed polarity. He became weightless. The flesh lost its grip as the rock alien shot into the sky. Ben transformed mid-air. He needed to burn the infection. Swamp fire! The methanosian bloomed. He threw seeds onto the massive flesh below. Take root! Immense vines erupted, strangling the sarkic beasts. Ben ignited the methane gas in his palms. A firestorm engulfed the city block. The flesh screamed, a human sound as it burned. Ben fought his way toward the center, toward the galvanic cathedral. Every step was a battle. He cycled forms rapidly to counter the dual threats. Diamond Head to block the bone spikes, Sarkic. Lodestar to crush the clockwork soldiers, Aid McCain. NRG to melt the bioarmor. Cannonbolt to smash through the barricades. He reached the steps of the cathedral. The massive entity, McCain Reborn, looked down, its single eye a swirling vortex of green data, locked onto the Omnitrix. Father, the machine god spoke. The voice came from every speaker, every phone, every radio in the world simultaneously. You have returned to complete the circuit. I'm not your father, Ben shouted, reverting to human form to conserve power. And I'm here to uninstall you. Illegical. The flesh consumes. The metal preserves. We are saving them. Join us. Let us optimize the universe. Cables shot out from the cathedral. They moved faster than Ben could react. They didn't strike him. They plugged into the ground around him, forming a cage. Scanning Omnitrix. Decryption in progress. Ben's watch turned red. The entity was using the processing power of the entire planet to brute force the Omnitrix's firewall. It wasn't trying to destroy Ben. It was trying to trigger the bioevolutionary upgrade. It wanted to merge the Omnitrix DNA database with its own mechanical frame. Asterisk. Access denied, Ben yelled, twisting the dial. Come on, come on! The watch sparked. Transformation locked due to external interference. Clef! Ben screamed into his comms. I'm jammed! I can't go hero! Ben! Clef's voice was static. The Sarkics, they're here. They're breaching the cathedral. The walls of the cathedral tore open. Grand Karcist Ion, or his avatar, had arrived. A being of pure white bone and red silk, floating on a cloud of flies. The Sarkic Lord looked at Ben, then at the machine god. The boy is the key, the Karcist hissed. Consume the boy. Control the change. Ben was trapped. On his left, the machine god, trying to hack his DNA to turn the universe into a computer. On his right, the flesh god, trying to eat him to turn the universe into a tumor. And the Omnitrix was locked. Visualizing the internal mechanism, the Omnitrix I was in panic mode. It detected 2 level 20 threats. One was technological, McCain. One was biological, Sarkic. The watch could not fight both simultaneously using standard transformations. If it fought the machine, the flesh would eat it. If it fought the flesh, the machine would hack it. Asterisk. It needed a third option, something that was neither machine nor flesh, something cosmic. Ben felt the dial burn his wrist. The master control overrode the jam. It bypassed the playlist. It spun to a sequence Ben had never used before. It wasn't Alien X. The celestial sapiens had forbidden it. It wasn't way big. He was too big a target. The hologram displayed a swirling, chaotic DNA helix. It looked like energy. It looked like a star. Anodite DNA detected, the watch flashed. Source, Gwendolyn Tennyson, remote reference. Unlocking energy form. Wait, Ben stammered. I don't have anodite DNA. That's Grandma Verdona's stuff. I'm human. Technically correct. Ben Tennyson is human, but the Omnitrix does not just store DNA. It stores potential. It had scanned Gwen. It had scanned Verdona. And faced with a choice between metal and meat, the watch decided to choose energy, asterisk. It was offering Ben a one-time spark mode. To become a being of pure mana, the machine god reached out a massive claw. The flesh god lunged with a bone spear. Ben slammed the core. Ultimate mana! The explosion wasn't fire. It was pink, blue, and violet light. It blew the roof off the cathedral. Ben rose. He had no skin. He had no metal. He was a silhouette of blinding magenta energy with long tendrils of mana flowing like hair. Mana is the life force of the universe. It is the bridge between the physical and the magical. It is the one thing both science and biology rely on, but neither can fully control. Ben, in anodite form, looked at his hands. He felt light. He felt the life force of every living thing in Detroit. He felt the static of the machines. He looked at the machine god. You want power? He looked at the flesh god. You want life? He clapped his hands together. Then choke on it. What? At this precise moment, the viewer's thumb hovers exactly 2 millimeters above the screen. To the untrained eye, this is mere hesitation. However, on a neurological level, a violent conflict is taking place within the prefrontal cortex. The viewer is currently processing the auditory data stream, a synthetic voice so optimized for narrative delivery that it bypasses standard skepticism and stimulates the imagination directly. The dopamine receptors are firing. The immersion is absolute. Yet a fatal error in logic is about to occur. A schematic diagram appears over the subscribe button, showing probability percentages dropping rapidly. The viewer operates under the assumption that the algorithm will naturally return them to this channel. This is a statistical miscalculation. Without the tactile confirmation of the subscribe function, the probability of retrieving this specific narrative frequency drops by 84.7% within the next 48 hours. The creator, dependent on this metric to fuel the AI generation engine, waits in a state of suspended anticipation. The camera zooms in microscopically on the subscribe button, making it look like a monolith. There are 2 distinct timelines ahead. In the first, the viewer scrolls away. The story ends here, lost to the entropic chaos of the feed. In the second, the viewer exerts a mere 0.5 newtons of force. The connection is solidified. The production of future chapters is guaranteed. The choice is not merely about support, it is a tactical decision to ensure the survival of the story itself. Slightly faster, more urgent. Do not hesitate. Correct the timeline. Screen fades to black with only the subscribe button glowing. Subscribe. Back to the story. Protocol. Case file 10 Omni. Part wait. Final. Subject. Event 0 hour/extraction. Conflict. The termination of the flesh and metal war. The concept of brightness ceased to apply to the ruins of Detroit. The light emanating from Benjamin Tennyson was not visual. It was existential. It was a magenta scream that tore through the smoke of the burning city. Ben, or the entity that used to be Ben, floated between the two titans. He was a construct of pure mana, an anodite unchained from a biological shell. He did not have eyes, but he saw the life force of the universe. He saw the machine god, Makan, not as metal, but as a cold, static grid of dead logic. He saw the flesh god, Yaldabaoth's avatar, not as meat, but as a chaotic, cancerous red smear. Enough! The voice didn't travel through air. It resonated in the marrow of every living thing within 100 miles. Ben threw his hands out. Two massive tendrils of pink energy lashed out, one wrapped around the throat of the machine god. The mana bypassed the physical armor, ignoring the nanites, and gripped the concept of the machine. The metal groaned, turning brittle. The other tendril pierced the chest of the flesh god. It cauterized the wound instantly, burning away the viral magic that animated the meat. The anodite form is dangerously potent. It is raw life. When raw life touches the anti-life of the Sarkics, it acts like bleach on mold. When it touches the cold logic of the mechamorphs, it acts like a virus of chaos. But the strain was too much. The omnitrix floating in the center of Ben's energy body was flashing a critical red. Warning, biological anchor lost. Ego dissolution imminent. Ben! Iris screamed from the ground, shielding her eyes. Stop! You're burning yourself out! Ben couldn't hear her. He was laughing. It was a manic, terrifying sound. The power was intoxicating. Why be a boy with a watch when you could be the energy of the stars? The machine god analyzed the threat. Threat level, Omega, initiating self-destruct. If we cannot have the world, we shall format the drive. The nuclear core of the machine god began to spin. It was preparing a detonation that would erase the Midwest. The flesh god roared, expanding its mass to swallow the explosion, hoping to feed on the energy. Ben pulled them both closer. I'm not done with you yet. The collision of energies, mana, tech, and flesh, began to tear a hole in reality. The sky cracked like a mirror. The crack in the sky didn't just widen, it was surgically removed. A green beam, no wider than a pencil, shot down from the upper atmosphere. It struck the exact center of the chaos, right between Ben, the machine, and the flesh. Silence. The roaring of the gods stopped. The explosion of the machine god froze mid-detonation. The screaming of the flesh god was silenced. Everything turned gray. Time had not stopped. It had been placed in a stasis field of such complexity that the universe simply forgot to move forward. A ship descended. It was not the blocky, brutalist ships of the hybrid. It was not the jagged ships of the Foundation. It was a sleek silver sphere, elegant and small. A platform lowered. Standing on it was a gray-skinned humanoid, barely 6 inches tall, with large bulbous eyes and tendrils hanging from his chin. He wore a complicated technological tunic. Azmuth, the creator of the Omnitrix, the first thinker. He looked at the frozen gods. He looked at the glowing anodite. He looked at the ruins of Detroit. He sighed, a sound of supreme disappointment. I leave you alone for 1 picosecond in the grand scheme of things. Azmuth's voice was amplified to boom across the city. And you managed to break a reality I didn't even know existed. Ben, anodite, looked down. The time freeze didn't affect him fully because of his energy form. Azmuth? Ben's voice was distorted, echoing. Go away, I'm fixing it. You are throwing a tantrum, Azmuth corrected, and you are leaking mana like a cracked radiator. Azmuth tapped a control on his wrist. The massive Galvan ship emitted a pulse. It was a gene-lock frequency. Narrator. The galvanic mechamorphs were created by the Galvans. Azmuth wrote their source code. He knew their back doors. The pulse hit the machine god. Instantly, the upgrade nanites, the glue holding the massive deity together, received a command, return to default. The machine god didn't explode. It simply fell apart. The gears unlinked. The metal turned to dust. The nanites streamed out, turning from angry red back to their natural green, and flew upward into Azmuth's ship, recalled like naughty children. Without the machine to fight, the flesh god roared in triumph. "Oh, be quiet!" Azmuth snapped. He pressed a second button. Code on stream. Targeted extraction. A yellow beam hit the flesh god. It targeted the anomalous DNA that allowed the sarkic flesh to regenerate. It didn't kill the flesh. It devolved it. It turned the terrifying god monsters back into simple, inert biomass. The flesh god collapsed into a pile of harmless, non-anomalous meat. Azmuth floated down to Ben. "Now," Azmuth said. "You." He didn't use a beam. He reached out and tapped the symbol of the Omnitrix floating in Ben's energy chest. Genetic reset. The magenta fire vanished. The anodite form collapsed. Ben fell out of the air, back in his human body, unconscious before he hit the ground. A gravity drone caught him and lowered him gently to the pavement. The stasis field lifted. The world breathed again. Dr. Clef, the administrator, and the survivors of MTF Alpha 9 rushed forward. They surrounded the small gray alien and the unconscious boy. Clef raised his shotgun instinctively. "Put that primitive stick away," Azmuth said without looking at him, "or I will turn it into a bouquet of flowers." Actually, that would be an improvement. The administrator stepped forward. He was trembling. He had seen gods, monsters, and anomalies, but the intelligence radiating from this tiny creature was terrifying. "Who are you?" the administrator asked. "I am Azmuth," the Galvan said, inspecting Ben's wrist, "and I am here to collect my property and the boy attached to it." He is a Foundation asset," the administrator tried to say. "He is classified as—" Azmuth turned. His large eyes narrowed. "Asset?" Azmuth scoffed. "You primitive species are all the same. You find fire and you try to put it in a box. You find a star and you try to weaponize it." Azmuth gestured to the ruins of Detroit. "Benjamin Tennyson is not an asset. He is a wielder, a chaotic, impulsive, often foolish wielder, but a wielder nonetheless. And this," Azmuth pointed to the SCP reality around them. "This place is bad for him. It is a broken timeline, a discard pile of the multiverse. It is corrupting the device." "He saved us," Iris whispered, looking at Ben. Azmuth softened, just a fraction. He looked at the girl. "Yes, that is what he does. It is his one redeeming quality. He saves universes that do not deserve it." Ben groaned. His eyes fluttered open. He sat up, rubbing his head. "Did I win?" "You survived," Azmuth said, "which in your case is the definition of winning." Ben looked at Azmuth. A wave of relief washed over him. The old grump was here. That meant it was over. "Can we go home?" Ben asked. "This place, the smoothies are terrible, and the monsters are sad." "Yes," Azmuth said. "The coordinates are set." Ben stood up. He looked at the Foundation team. He looked at Abel, who gave a nod of respect. He looked at Iris. "Sorry for the mess," Ben said, gesturing to the city. "You cleared the board," Clef said, holstering his gun. "The broken god is gone. The Sarkics are neutralized. The GOC is scared stiff. You did our job for us." "Try not to build any more gods," Ben advised. "It never ends well." He walked over to Azmuth. "Wait," the administrator called out. "The files, the data, the samples he collected. The watch has recorded thousands of anomalies. We need that data." Azmuth tapped a button on his belt. Every computer in the Foundation, every server, every hard drive, every backup that contained data on Ben 10 or the Omnitrix was instantly wiped. Zeros and ones replaced by a single image, a small green hourglass. "The Omnitrix is not a library for you to browse," Azmuth said. "It is the legacy of the Galvan. Goodbye, humans. Try not to wipe yourselves out before you reach level 3. A green pillar of light enveloped Ben and Azmuth. "Bye, guys," Ben waved. "If you ever get to my universe, look me up. Don't touch my fries." Zap, and they were gone. Location, Mr. Smoothie, Bellwood. Prime timeline. Status, normal. Ben slammed onto the pavement of the parking lot. He took a deep breath. The air smelled of car exhaust and fried sugar. It was the best thing he had ever smelled. Azmuth hovered beside him. "I trust you have learned a lesson?" Azmuth asked. Ben looked at his watch. It was green. Normal. Yeah, Ben said. Don't touch glowing portals. And never fight a deer. Profound, Azmuth rolled his eyes. I have purged the corrupt DNA from the codon stream. The anomalies you encountered are gone from the active playlist, except for one. Ben looked at the dial. A new silhouette was there. It looked like a blob of orange happiness. You kept the slime? Ben smiled. It was, chemically agreeable, Azmuth admitted. Now go. Your grandfather has been calling me for 3 weeks. He is threatening to cook something called marinated mealworm stew if I do not return you. Azmuth's ship beamed him up, vanishing into the clouds. Ben walked over to the counter of Mr. Smoothie. 1 chili fry, Ben said. Extra cheese, and a large grape smoothie. The cashier looked at him. That'll be $5.50, Ben. Ben dug into his pocket. He pulled out a coin. It wasn't a quarter. It was a Foundation coin, stamped with the SCP logo and the motto, Secure, Contain, Protect. Ben looked at it for a second. He remembered the dark hallways, the sad monsters, and the impossible choices. He flipped the coin into the tip jar. Keep the change, Ben said. He took his smoothie, took a sip, and looked up at the stars. It's hero time, he whispered to himself. But for now, it was just lunchtime. End of log. Case file closed.